unfortunately, sometimes when you try to hold them, then the big one, they call the mampala with that big claw, they'll grab you by the hand. And you think, well, boy, man, you're getting a crab, but they're also getting a finger.
All right, today we have Erroll joining us for a conversation. He's going to share a little bit about his life and experiences. So, Erroll, if you can start off by just talking a bit about your childhood experiences. I know you were born in Jamaica, is that right?
Of course, yes.
All right, so let us know, how was it?
I grew up in Jamaica and spent most of my early childhood there in the friendly city of Montego Bay. And I did all my basic primary school, basic education there. And because I had a large family, 5 sisters and 3 brothers, I've been kept pretty active, pretty busy in my early years. There's always the risk with a large family of a little friction here and there, you know, sibling rivalry. And but my brothers were the ones that I spent a lot of time with, knowing that we play a lot of sports. We do things like fishing, we go camping, we play football, and we play cricket, if you're familiar with cricket. But we grew up poor, you know, we were not from a very wealthy family by any stretch. But growing up at that time was very, very intriguing, to say the least, because we were afforded a lot of ways to exercise our ingenuity, our industry. We had to make do with so many things. And that helped us with our creative instincts. An example would be, you know, playing soccer. We had to use a tennis ball, believe it or not, to play soccer.
Could you maybe expand a little bit more? You said that, you know, you came from a kind of low income area. How was that in terms of challenges, and, you know, what did that look like? Were you guys always able to get the food you needed, or was that sometimes a challenge?
Well, no, we were always, and I'm very proud of the things that our parents were able to accomplish with the limited income that we had in our family. We're never without adequate clothing, housing, nutritious food. Mm-hmm. But it was always a stress. It was always a difficult. There was always sacrifices. Mm-hmm. But you know what? It brought us together. It kept us together. It kind of united us, and start to inculcate early a sense of purpose. And as I said earlier on, industry. Mm-hmm. So we had to find ways and means to survive, literally survive. Mm-hmm. I recall some of the examples I had, just to touch on that point very briefly. We always look forward to the rainy season. Mm-hmm. And my brother and I would make sure the harder the rain, the happier we would be, because we would go out after each rainfall and we would walk the streets, you know, the curbs, and looking for coins, because all these coins would wash down into the system, and you know, we go out with nothing, and very rarely do we get back home without a few dollars mm-hmm. In our pockets. So, you know, and that was very helpful, because we were able to not totally depend on our parents for the sort of basic things that we needed as kids, buying our sweets, buying yo-yos and balloons, and the things that kids play with at that time.
So did you and your siblings get little jobs or little side hustles, you know, selling lemonade, you know, these types of things? Did you guys do that a lot to help?
Oh yes. And it's instructive that you asked that question, because a lot of the youngsters today perhaps do not necessarily appreciate what it's like to having to get up at 5 o'clock in the mornings sometimes and do extra chores or stay until 6, 7 o'clock in the evening to continue doing chores, the purpose for which is to make additional funds to help not only your parents, but to help yourselves. And that was a natural, normal thing for us to do. An example that I had on a personal level is that Jamaica is very hilly. So the guy who sells ice cream, he would come in the mornings, and at 6 o'clock, he needed help to push his cart over the hill to get to the top of the hill. And if you have been to Jamaica, I mean, it's not like, say, Florida, where it's pretty flat. It's fairly hilly in Jamaica. So I had to get up in the morning, meet with my call it business partner, and I had to help him to push that heavy bike with his ice creams and snow cones and different things up the hill. And I would make my, in those days, maybe the equivalent of $1 or $2. But that's what it took for me to be able to get that additional cash to help me, to help my parents a little bit, but to help me personally to meet those needs. So it was work, but it was fun too, because not only did he pay us, but he also gave us an ice cream as a little bonus. So
nice.
You
could say he sweetened the deal.
He sweetened the pot. Yeah,
oh, yeah, he did.
Sweetened the labor. Yes.
Nice. Any other funny or interesting jobs that you can think of, you and your siblings doing?
We would also go to the beach now, to the sea, and when the ships that would come in and dock in the local docking area there in Montego Bay, and all the tourists would come, and as a youngster, you're very excited about seeing them, and they would come and they're excited to see us, and we'll jump off the pier into the water, and they'll take out a quarter, and they will flip it in the water, and then we had to dive down, and the money would be doing this. And we went and we took it up. When we got it, we took it up and showed it to them, and we put it in our thing. And we come back up to the top, and they were cheering us. But we were very happy of the fact that we were able to make a couple of dollars doing that, giving the tourists something to smile about, and of course, we were making some money in the process. Yes.
Wow. That's the first time I've heard of people making money that way, I gotta say.
Oh, yes. And that was a common thing for us. A lot of fun as kids. We didn't take or make much of it, but, the tourists had fun seeing us diving in and, be able to get that coin before it goes to the bottom.
Nice. Is there anything that you perhaps learned as a child going through those situations that you might share with the people watching?
Yes, I would say those early years started to provide us with an ability to start to think of ways in which we can find a way to make things happen for us, creative ways. We just got to move beyond the normal expectations and the normal things that people do. And we're able to figure out that there must be something to be learned by how we prepare ourselves for life, the reality of life. And we thought by not being afraid of trying different things, of experimenting with different things, and be willing and open to learn how to make ourselves available in every situation to make life better for ourselves and make life better for our family. So that leads me to the whole question of education and learning and acquiring a skill and acquiring the basic education. The primary education in Jamaica is one that I will always be very thankful for, only because of the fact that the teachers were very, very dedicated. And remember now you're talking about a low income family, and we did not have the profile like some of the more well-off people who had substance in terms of education and monies. But we were treated as one. You know, there was no distinction between the different status of the students in a class. You know, they're going to be accorded the same attention. The teachers were always willing to reach out and to hold us all accountable. And we learned that acquiring an education could change your fortune. That's one way in which you can move from a lower income person to a middle income, and in some cases even upper middle class income. So yeah, you had to begin to make those adjustments in your life, even at a very early stage.
So tell us a little bit about your experience beyond that in grade school. So any funny or interesting stories you can think of while you were in school?
Well, as boys, we were always mischievous. We get into fights like everybody else. When you come to school and you're late, then the headmaster would be at the gate with his belt, if you will, or his strap, and you can rest assured that you're going to get a good spanking before he allows you to get back in.
Yeah.
So what that did, in all honesty, it helped us to be more mindful of and respectful of time and responsibility. You're supposed to get to school by 8 o'clock. Well, we're going to get to school by 8 o'clock because we don't want to have to meet the strap of our principal. We don't want to have to encounter the principal. And but we started to develop a sense of responsibility, and we started to take our education more seriously. We were not in any way deterred by the fact that we might be disciplined. On the other hand, we know that we got to do what it took to make sure that we get the education that we needed. Yes, that was important.
Okay, well, maybe we can change the subject a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the food as you were growing up now. You know, what was your favorite dishes? How did it look from day to day?
Well, I'm glad you touched on that, because most people don't understand how much a blessing it is to come from some of the islands in the Caribbean. Not only that, the cuisine is different, but there's a lot of tropical type foods. There is the old notion that we eat food that comes directly from the ground. You know, we did not use to a lot of fertilized food. Food was readily available. You could walk to your neighbor's house, and there's always a mango tree that is laden there. Ripe bananas, soursop, sweet sop, custard apple. You may or may not be familiar with some of these fruits, and they're absolutely delicious. And to supplement our meals, we would, coming home from school, we were passing 2 or 3 homes, and you know, when the rain falls again, all these mangoes will be falling off the trees, and the neighbors were so generous. They'll allow us to come into their homes, into their yards, and pick up mangoes, and we would make sure we get ton loads of those and take for our siblings. But one other thing that you mentioned that I'm not sure if a lot of folks are familiar with that, those, you may call them sea crabs up here. When it rains a lot in Jamaica, scores of crabs just coming out of their hiding, and we would make plans to get our crocus bags or bags to go into the bushes and with our flashlights, and you know, you'd try to hold them by your hands, or you try to use your feet or with a stick, or But the main thing, you want to get those. Unfortunately, sometimes when you try to hold them, then the big ones, they call it the mampala with that big claw, they'll grab you by the hand. And you think, well, boy, man, you're getting a crab, but they're also getting a finger.
So besides those, supplements that you were obtaining, what was just like the general diet, or was it usually rice and peas?
Okay.
Or what type of meat?
Yes. Now the favorite, or what we call the national dish in Jamaica, is ackee and codfish or saltfish. And the ackee, how best I can describe that? On the tree, it's closed, and the fruit has to be open or pried open before it can be consumed. But it has to be opened naturally. In other words, you don't want to go and prise it open, because I understand that it could be poisonous. And when you prepare it, take out all the different stuff, like the gutting and the seeds and stuff forth. And you prepare it, it's like egg that is
like scrambled.
Scrambled, yeah? And you obviously, with codfish or saltfish that we use, and the seasoning and so forth. You have that with plantains and dumplings and boiled bananas and yams, yellow yams. I mean, you're gonna be licking all 5, 6 fingers when you get that. It is a very, very delicious meal, extraordinarily delicious. But I'll say something else about that. Our favorite dish, and on a Sunday, that's when your parents really go out. I suspect that's true for our experiences in America as well. And you're gonna get the best meal on a Sunday. So we'll get our rice and peas and chicken, jerk chicken. We're gonna get our bamis, which is some sort of cassava mixture that is put together and it's baked, plantains and ripe bananas. Sometimes when you put that together and you fry that too, goes well with that kind of food. You can always get the basic produce from the ground, a lot of ground stable carbohydrates. And you get a lot of seafoods, fish, and lobsters. I would go into the sea myself at an early stage, and I would go fishing, and I will catch my lobsters, believe it or not. And you take that home, and that's when you have a special meal. But the idea of going and be able to do all that makes such an awesome experience, because you dare not go into the restaurant and try to buy some of those things, so very expensive. But all that is excellent in terms of giving us this sort of practical life experience and a practical education. Now, I went through the basic school levels in Jamaica, primary school. I went to high school in Jamaica. And of course, I came to the States when I was 16, went to college here. My first and second degrees up here, and then went back to Jamaica because I had the desire to make sure I took back whatever I learned and whatever I acquired, to take that back to Jamaica to be a part of the development of my country.
Well, before you get too far ahead, tell us a little bit, where did you go for school and what did you study there?
I went to Rollins College, located in Winter Park, Florida, up in the Orlando area. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's in business administration, economics, and some accounts. And so I was very fortunate in getting a job directly from college with one of the major organizations, companies in Jamaica. And I was a manager there for about 10 years. We were in the food distribution business. We were in the tire sales business. We're in computer sales and marketing, pharmaceutical distribution. That's one aspect of it. Another company, they were involved in agriculture. We had rearing of horses and cows. And by the way, that's the way I learned to ride a horse. So I used to have to saddle up and go around the property to oversee what's happening out there in the fields. We're in the pimento production. We're in the lime and orange, sweet orange production. We're in a tour. How do I describe the tour? Pretty much you're going to jitney and you travel around the estate and looked at some of the very interesting sites. It was said that at one point in the island you could look across and see the horizons of Cuba. So that was kind of fascinating. We were very fortunate. We had a lot of distinguished visitors, politicians, business people visit the estate whilst I was there, and had the privilege of meeting a couple of them, including Henry Kissinger, during the time when he served as Secretary of State of the United States under Nixon's administration. There were a lot of politicians, including the local leaders of our country, prime ministers and the governor general. They would visit my alma mater, the college that I went to in Jamaica. And I'll say a bit about that, which is so important, because my education was made possible by my benefactor, the late Sir Harold Mitchell, who was from Scotland, and he bought a lot of businesses all over the world. And he had an interest in Jamaica, and one of his missions was to make sure he provided opportunities, educational opportunities for Jamaicans. So he established the Prospect College in Jamaica, which I had the fortune as serving as a cadet, and worked my way up through the ranks, and was the drum major or the cadet captain. And because of some of my academic achievements, I was granted the scholarship to go to Rollins in the States. So that was an exciting phase of my life that provided me with an opportunity really today to be able to do and accomplish a lot of the things that I've been able to do in the last several years. I also, by the way, served as the principal of that college, so it was nice to kind of get back and did some of that work.
Okay, well, let's get into a little bit of, maybe after the 10 years you did at the business in Jamaica, how'd the rest of your career kind of pan out? And I can see at some point you came back to the United States, so give us an idea of that.
Well, I met the partner for a lifetime, my wife, Audrey. And some people say, they don't know what life is going to mete out to you in terms of a partner and what that might mean for a relationship. But I met Audrey, and she just blew me off my feet. really took my breath away. She's the love of my life. And I couldn't ask for a better person for me to have spent my 42 years to date with her. We have a family of two, Michelle and Philip, my daughter and my son, both of whom I'm extraordinarily proud of.
So did you meet Audrey while you were working at that first business in Jamaica, or like partway through, or at the end? How did that all kind of line up?
I smile a bit because Audrey was in fact working in the accounting department in one of the jobs that I had as general manager. So invariably we start to develop a relationship, and of course you're not supposed to, or didn't want it to be obvious that we were seeing each other. So we just write little notes to each other. She'd write me little notes. When she's annoyed at me, I'd write a little note and I'd summon her to my office because she wasn't speaking to me. So I had to find a way to get her there. So I used
Use your managerial privileges.
my managerial position to, Audrey, I need to speak to you. Could you come to my office? And then, of course, when she comes in, then it was all smile. But, you know, she has been just such a godsend. I had several jobs in Jamaica, and I'll just share just a little insight with that. I know a lot of people may say, well, diversity is good and it's bad, and I'll agree. But from the standpoint of a career, I think that when you're able to acquire new experiences, as you try new endeavors and you initiate new careers, it's a good thing. Spending significant time at a company is also important, so you don't want to be changing jobs every other year. But I learned something very significant too, just to kind of put it all full circle. One of the companies that I work for, excellent company, they provide a lot of benefits in Jamaica, a lot of opportunities. And when you function at a certain level in management, yeah, you get the benefits that is attributable to the job. There's the occasion, though, that I had to leave that job. So when I had to leave, I did not have a house because I was living in a company house. Did not have a car because I was driving the company car. So I found that I had neither a house to live in or a car to drive. So immediately I took the decision and said, you know what? I'm going to buy my own house. So the very week that I lost that job, I bought a bit of land and built my own house. The moral of the story is that never put yourself in a situation where you are totally dependent or reliant on anybody, on any one person, on any one source. That's why we talked about the options. Always give yourself the ability and the opportunity to be able to have that flexibility.
Awesome. Well, so you met Audrey. Did you have both of your kids in Jamaica?
They were born in New York.
Okay, in New York. Okay, so why don't we move along then? So you had your kind of career starting in Jamaica.
Yes.
You got different experiences there. And then around what time period did you come over here, and where did you live?
We got back to New York after spending about 15 or so years in Jamaica after college. And we went straight to New York, which is kind of typical of most of us who migrate to the US, we tend to come to or go to New York and or to Florida. So we lived in New York, and we decided to start a family. Well, we got married in Jamaica and everything, and we decided to start a family. And of course, when you make that transition from Jamaica or from any country, you gotta not start at the top as a top manager, but you gotta work your way back into the situation. And to the point, I end up going into the insurance business. And I was very fortunate to got a position with one of the big names, AIG, for that purpose. And I worked with them for about 15, 16 years. And moved up again through the ranks from a salesperson up to the general manager of a local office. And so that again was very important because you had to acquire a new set of skill sets and new knowledge and learn different ways of conducting business. But your basic training, your basic exposure were all instrumental in helping to keep you balanced as you move forward in your new career. So we did that very successfully, and got a number of awards and trophies and so forth for the performances that we were able to achieve, both individually and as the leader of an organization. So I'm very, very excited about the experiences that I've had in that. Then we started to get into the church in a more substantive way. We started out in Jamaica, but we found a local church here in the States. And we were very instrumental in working with the folks up in New York. And we were able to establish a body where a lot of local people from the Caribbean would come together and we worship and we share. And then we moved down to Florida because it was much, much too cold for me in New York. So we moved to Florida. We joined a local church here in the Fort Lauderdale area. And we worshiped there. We always try to get involved in the work, church work. And we're very fortunate Audrey is also well positioned for that. And she was the one who was very instrumental too in kind of guiding and helping me in the early days of my relationship, my walk with the Lord. Mm-hmm. So that was good. So I am pretty much retired or half retired. Try to stay active, try to stay engaged. Try to make myself available to any youngsters who I can mentor or support or provide guidance or direction. I'm also very committed to the work of the Lord right now and try to make myself available to help and to support and to encourage anyone to stay strong and stay firm and stay committed to the work.
Well, on that note, as we've kind of touched on a lot of different things in your life, and it's been awesome to hear your story, do you think you could share a little bit of wisdom, just something that's going to encourage the people who are watching or give them some direction or insight,
Yes.
Based on your experiences?
And I'm glad you asked this particular question, and I will happily share. And I feel very strongly about this, and it's all to do with one's ability to take the preemptive action. And what I simply mean by that is that sometimes you know the action that you're going to take, and it could be anything. It could be to do with your relationships, it could do with your career choice, it could be having to do with business endeavors, could having to do with your food that you eat. If you believe, or if you're aware, if you're conscious that the action you're going to take could pose a problem or pose a challenge, before you embark, before you engage, make sure you give it sufficient thought process. Make sure that you kind of mull it around a few times in your head. And don't be precipitous. Don't be flippant. Don't figure you can fix it at the end. You want to try and avoid having to go resolve or solve a problem. And I'm saying that only because I've seen so many people go through the heartache and the challenges of dealing with issues that could have been avoided, and should have been avoided. And it's easy to fix at the end. Well, there's a lot that's going to go into that, and the cost may not even be considered at all before you take your action. So I say preemptive strike. Deal with it before it becomes a problem.
All right. Well, Erroll, I appreciate you sharing your story and for giving us that bit of wisdom. And thank you.
First, I thank you, and I want to commend you on the work you're doing, and wish nothing but the best for you in all of your undertakings.